Hello everyone, I am here to present to you plate tectonics and landforms of Guatemala. The location of Guatemala is, as you can see on the right map, it's between the Tropic of Cancer and the equator in Central America. And it's bordered by Belize, El Salvador, Honduras, and Mexico, as you can see on the left map. Now let's talk about plate tectonics a little bit. So the three plates that have to do with Guatemala are the North American plate, the Cocos plate, and the Caribbean plate. You might be asking yourself what type of boundary occurs between the North American plate and the Caribbean plate, and that would be a transform boundary where faults occur, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. You also might be asking yourself, I'm sure, what type of boundary occurs between the Cocos plate and the Caribbean plate, and that would be a convergent boundary. We can see an illustration of that on the top right diagram, where the Cocos plate actually goes underneath the Caribbean plate. And this is because the Cocos plate, which is oceanic, is much denser than the continental plate of the Caribbean. And this process is called subduction. Now we're going to look at the actual landforms. You can see the volcanic arc in Central America on the top map from Google Earth, and this is actually what runs through Guatemala, and below that is the major volcanoes of Guatemala. Now we have some fast facts. Guatemala has about 288 volcanoes, and only 8 of them, which astounds me, have ever been considered active. And the 4 major volcanoes that propose threats to Guatemala are Fuego, Santiaguito, Cerro Quemado, and Pacaya. Now we can look at what a fault actually is, as you can see from the yellow map. Look at the green line right there. This is a fault called the Motagua Fault, and what it actually is, according to usgs.gov, is a break in the rocks that make up the Earth's crust, along which rocks on either side have moved past each other. And that's why I said that it occurs where transform boundaries are. Now let's look at earthquakes. So GFDRR, which is the Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery, says that Guatemala is situated in a zone of high seismic risk due to the conjuncture of 3 tectonic plates, the North American plate, the Caribbean plate, and the Cocos plate. And on the right, I have a map of the seismic activity. The different colors represent the depth of the earthquake, and the different sized circles represent the magnitude of the earthquake. Let's talk about a little bit of history. So there was an earthquake in 1976 that was the most devastating that was recorded. Over 23,000 people died, and the magnitude was 7.4. There is some current news about earthquakes. There have been 4 in this past week, 14 in the past month, and 153 just in 2014, which is pretty crazy to me. Now with my RASP, I looked at how scientists gauge volcanoes, and they looked at the thermal data of volcanoes in order to predict patterns, and this allowed for them to have warning, or to give warning to the people to evacuate and take other safety precautions. And what they found from this research was that the data was actually very accurate, more than any other system before. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I hope you really enjoyed it.